presumably, hopefully, you guys waited to watch this video till after you saw Into the Chasm, my third feature film. This particular cut, I have to be honest, I'm not sure which one I put up, whether it was the first version. I cut it several times. I had done some training on Avid and knew MIDI 100 a little bit, but this was actually straight cuts. I shot it partially on DV cam, on, the 3-chip SVHS, and I think there's some other a couple, prosumer cameras, some good cameras. There's some 16 in there, 16 millimeter reversal, black and white. There's some other, I took pieces from other things, as usual. Took some stuff from InHawk, some David the Rock Nelson footage that one of the guys who was being programmed, right, was watching. The response to the film was, again, there was no response to the film. Could not get it into a major festival. Could not get it into any festival. This came out around, I really cut all of it, mostly throughout 2000. I was having a really pretty significant success with the Real Casino back home years ago. The Real Casino was getting into some pretty big festivals in Santa Monica, and New Filmmakers LA, and New Filmmakers New York, Anthology Film Archives, which was totally legit screening. There was a short with the Real Casino there with Vinnie Vella, who was in Casino, so that was cool. Into the Chasm, more sophisticated film at all levels. Little austere at times, interesting, a lot of metaphors. It really came into play when I cut the short, thinking quite a bit about Iraq, and how these people were basically brainwashed into supporting this thing that was just a disaster. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. There was no connection, there was no WMD, and, whatever, there was that subtext there, and it just, people have always liked the film, but just, again, positioning is everything. Just getting that someone to put their stamp on it. Joe Carnahan actually was always a fan. He thought I should reshoot it, or have a bigger script off of it. There were people who really definitely dug it quite a bit. I still think the film works on a lot of levels, even with the obvious flaws. I just, again, the positioning of these kind of films is everything. When you think of something, even like much later on, Krisha, right? Trey Edward Schultz, super talented guy. I really like They Come at Night, that second film, a lot too. That should have been a staple during the pandemic. It's like it totally prefigured it. It's eerie, really well done film. But Krisha, it's like that scene, the Thanksgiving scene, that comes in like almost an hour into the film, man. Okay, it's awesome scene, but she's good, but without that, if this film hadn't gotten into South by, if it hadn't done this, I haven't done that, don't worry, there'll be this good scene later on. It's like, yes, she was really good. I'm not kicking the film to the curb. I'm just saying that it's the positioning sometimes. Jean Dielman, Millie 18, en français, Jean Dielman, Millie 18, on croit, je parle français, anyway. John Dielman, yes, the greatest film of all time now. and the reputation of the film, Chantal Ackerman, under different circumstances, are you going to sit, you're going to watch 15 minutes, in the kitchen, the camera moving slowly, she's, walking from one side to the other, it's like, it's positioning, it's like, it's a classic. It's classic. It's Chantal, and I like the film. I like, Letters from Home, the one where she's in New York, all those great shots in New York City in 77 or whatever it is, and she's getting letters from home from her mom. It's fucking awesome. Again, it's how a film is positioned sometimes that really affects tremendously the reception. I'll get into this on a different thing, just about how in some ways the whole film festival thing is corrosive, because it's like your film doesn't exist if you're not in it. And listen, man, I ended up getting into, I've been in Holly Shorts, this will be the 4th time, several times at the monthlies, USA Film Festival in Dallas 4 times with a couple different films. They're a great festival, I'm getting ready to screen like my 10th time in almost 18 months in Los Angeles, different, different venues. This film I produced, will be at the Golden State Film Festival, which I've, won a couple awards there through a short. So it's not like I'm not kicking festivals to the curb. What I am saying though is they have an inordinate amount of power in certain circumstances, and that's, I think, affected, some films and filmmakers adversely, because people just, they won't do the work. It's like they're going to just depend on someone else to be the gatekeeper for them, and then, it's a problem. So, anyway, back to Into the Chasm, how that, the placement of the film, if you don't have that advocate who can get you into a nice venue, it's near, impossible to gain traction. But, online it did some things. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you sticking it out. And I might do a part 2 on just, the whole film festival thing, elaborate on that, where the business is, because these things did lead to me actually getting to have a career where I'm getting ready to pitch, a couple of major projects, through an agent and so forth. So it's not as if this stuff didn't lead to something, that is sustainable, but it's the difference between really already having made a real film, with real access to talent, and, still kind of scrounging around with smaller projects and eking out a living, but, barely in certain instances. And yet, I have had, 6-figure job and, kind of studio level. So it's like, and it's one of the reasons I didn't continue it, or I kind of made a mistake with not really following through. Rather, I was getting work as a screenwriter, and I really should have just bought a new camera, bought the editing stuff, at least have the editing stuff, and really bear down and shoot some stuff. I was right around during the whole mumblecore thing, and I just decided to, I was going to be a screenwriter, And so I learned, I got back to making things, but I think it just was the discouragement in a certain way, even though having the real casino, but just, I thought, I remember seeing little posters for Puffy Chair on the corner of Rose and Main Street, right where the clown is there in Venice, and thinking, oh yeah, I don't need to do, I was living in Venice, I had a writing job, got some 5-figure checks and going, and I was like, okay. And, that was the time I needed to hit the pedal, so I learned a lot, but, I still, I just, I feel for the film because I think it deserves so much more, especially John Crowther's performance. Anyway, thanks, guys.